The sub-hour run. It's the first major barrier players vied to break in the Silksong Any No Major Glitches category. In my previous video, I spoke about how the game's first speedrunners rapidly developed the route in the week after starting runs. With each personal best they submitted, they inched closer to the sub-hour time, but were ultimately still minutes away. In just 1 week, they reached 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 48 seconds. It was hard to imagine at that point that players would break the sub-hour barrier anytime soon. But if there's anything we know about these speedrunners, it's that they will always find ways to improve their time. Since then, Silksong has seen a tidal wave of new players. With over 2,000 submitted runs today, Silksong is currently the most actively run speed game in the world. New players and returning veterans have stepped onto the stage and achieved times we never would have thought were possible. In this video, I'm going to pick up where I left off with Scene's 1 hour and 6 minute time, and I'll tell you about all the amazing things that have happened since. I'll tell you how 33 world records were set in just 2 months, how rivalries developed, how players skipped minute barriers, discovered insane strategies, tricks, and reroutes, and how one player distinguished themselves from the rest. In this video, I'm going to tell you how Silksong Speedrunners demolished the hour barrier. Now, many of you have asked me how I stay sharp and focused during Silksong runs, and the answer is iHerb, the sponsor of today's video. iHerb is your global wellness partner, an online shopping platform with more than 50,000 authentic health and beauty products sourced direct from authorized distributors and delivered to your door in over 180 countries. What I love about iHerb is I can get an array of premium quality products and brands that would otherwise be hard or even impossible to find in my country. Let's talk about some. First, they're Korean skincare products, like this eye serum to reduce the look of dark circles after your late night Silksong session. If you're big on fitness, they've got everything from pre-workout powders in delicious flavors to help you get the most out of your exercise, to plant-based proteins that assist in muscle recovery without the soreness. You can even stock up on creatine, which has been shown in studies to help mitigate mental decline when you're running low on sleep, supporting better memory and reaction time to help you end the one more try cycle. No matter your wellness needs, they've got you covered. They've even got healthy treats and dental toys for your pets to keep them busy and happy while you're locked in on the game. Anna! I think she likes it. Click the link in the description and use code 20fireborn to get 20% off for new customers now until the end of the year, just in time for your holiday shopping. But with that, let's get into the video. It's the middle of September, less than 2 weeks after Silksong's release. Scene holds the Any world record, and speedrunners are just now beginning to implement advanced movement tech in the early game. They used the mist route to enter Act 2, are getting a second needle upgrade before Trobio, and are still figuring out whether to use Silk Spear or Parry in Act 2. No one could deny players had room to develop their skills, but for their time, these players were miles ahead. Blue SR, Onaku, and Scene were favorites to improve the record, but it was instead another player who appeared from nowhere, Marissa. Taking a look at her run, she didn't use neutral pogos or jump dash tech. Most top runners had a better Act 1, but she made up for it with her Act 2. Marissa finished Cogwork Dancer's hit list and save and quit after the fight much earlier than others. Now, watch Marissa fight through Whispering Vault's arena and pay attention to her silk spears. It wasn't perfect execution, but she's memorized when and where to place her silk spears for each wave, which will only become more important as time goes on. But before Trobio, she doesn't backtrack for the second needle upgrade. She skips it entirely. Most players assumed Needle 2 would save enough time that it would roughly go even, and if not, that the added safety would make up for the time loss. Marissa, however, suspected Needle 2 was slow and decided it was time to take the training wheels off. As expected, she saved tons of time from skipping the upgrade, over 2 minutes. The question was, how much time would she lose through the rest of the run? Remember, her needle damage was 9 compared to the 13 of other players. But as she reached High Hall's Gauntlet, she hadn't lost any time at all. She just needs to get through the last 3 encounters of the run without losing more time. Despite not having the second needle upgrade, Marissa finished High Hall's Gauntlet without losing any time to the world record, and for Lace 2 and Grandmother Silk, it was the exact same. It was her second world record of the day, and Marissa was 2 minutes and 28 seconds ahead of the rest. On the very next day, September 16th, Blue SR was running any percent. He continued using Needle 2 out of comfort, even though players knew it wasn't as fast. Remember, people were swapping world record nearly every day. They didn't have much time to adapt. Blue starts a run, and at Lace, he staggers the boss into the lava. Lace 1 staggers after being hit 11 times, and players found that if she falls into lava during that stagger, she takes 40 damage, the equivalent of 8 nail hits. Sending the boss into lava is going to be an important tactic moving forward. By Drifter's Cloak, Blue is 30 seconds ahead of Marissa, but defeats the last Hoker, missing just a single spine, and loses over 10 seconds from the smallest mistake.
No, my time save.
Now to the Mist, arguably the most interesting part of the route. If you'll recall, players completed the Mist by making 6 correct choices using butterflies to show them which room to enter next. If they make a wrong choice, their correct choice's counter returns to 0, forcing them to restart from the very beginning. But players found a secret trick. After entering a room, you could opt to return to your previous room, and it wouldn't affect the correct choice's counter. It re-rolls which exit is correct in the room, but the layout and the butterfly locations remain the same. This technique, called room juggling, was eventually patched out of the game, but at the time, players could use it to save time. Blue enters Mist 02 from the top right and immediately returns to Mist 06, because Mist 02 can be a tricky room to navigate. In practically every Mist run from now on, you're going to see players using room juggling to enter the more favorable Mist layouts. He saves time, but struggles with the Cogwork Dancers, wiping away his lead from Act 1. After he collects the second needle upgrade, he's over a minute behind Marissa's record. But let's watch how the next few splits go.
Very good fight. Don't panic and you're good. Yes, dude! Yes, dude!
An excellent Trobio, a huge gold in upper cogwork core, and he enters High Hall's Gauntlet. Blue mostly improvises his strategies for the arena, but his execution is on point, and after Lace 2, he's tied with the world record to the second going into Grandmother Silk. Let's watch how it goes. After a very close call, Blue does more than just beat the world record. He earns the world's first 1 hour and 3 minute run. Blue offset the needle upgrade time loss with excellent execution. But the next day, on September 17th, Marissa fired back. In Marissa's last runs, Act 1 was her weak point, but it's clear from the start that she's been practicing her movement. She still has room to improve, but she's noticeably much better. Now, let's talk about Bellbeast phase skip. First, Bellbeast has 150 HP starting the fight, and when she hits 75 HP, half health, her next attack will be the phase change. The goal of the Bellbeast phase skip is to defeat the boss during the phase change because it loses a lot of time. So to do it, players bring the boss to exactly 80 HP and then wait for an attack that lasts long enough that they can bring the boss to 35 HP all at once. Her attack when she launches bells doesn't last long enough to get her HP that low, so if she does it, the player has to simply wait. After, the boss pops her head up in the center to change phases, and if players are fast enough, they can just barely deal enough damage to take down the boss, and Marissa pulls off the Bellbeast phase skip. On Cogwork Dancers, Marissa performs the Scream Skip, sacrificing health for a faster first phase. Cogwork Dancers Phase 1 is fully scripted for the first 4 attacks, and by using well-placed Silk Spears, Marissa shows that the phase can be completed during that scripted sequence. Furthermore, she focuses on the right Cogwork Dancer in subsequent phases. This is because each dancer has a separate health pool, meaning you only need to beat one, and when the boss does its dance attack in the center, only the right dancer takes damage. And it turns out, it mattered. After the fight, Marissa is 45 seconds ahead of Blue's world record. Marissa carries her lead to Trobio, where she collects her time save for skipping the needle upgrade. Her run is solid up to High Hall's Gauntlet without any major time losses, losing only 20 seconds to Blue despite being down a needle upgrade. Against Lace 2, Marissa is more aggressive with Silk Spears, getting tons of mileage out of the ability, and it's the same for Grandmother Silk. The question is, can she pull off the world's first 1 hour and 2 minute run? With an excellent display of skill and consistency, Marissa barely breaks the minute barrier with just 70 milliseconds to spare. Competition was fierce, and players were improving incredibly fast. Later that very same day, Scene wanted to show he was still a world record contender. He had a solid pace going into Bellbeast, pulling off the phase skip. And what I want to highlight most is Scene's movement. Just look at the speed of his neutral pogos and jump dashes. And in the Flexile Spines quest, Scene uses a clever Silk Spear to farm the spines stuck in the ceiling above the Hoker. But in the mist, Scene has terrible Banshee RNG, and in the final room he enters Mist 07, the only Mist layout without a right transition to exit from. Remember, the final choice is always a right transition if one is available, otherwise the player has to complete an extra room. Scene entered Mist 05 and bum rushed the closest right transition, even though that layout has two, meaning it was a 50-50 with the run on the line. And thankfully, it paid off. Scene used Marissa's Needle 1 and Silk Spear strategies and kept even with her throughout Act 2, but started to gain a significant lead entering High Hall's Gauntlet. And while I would describe Marissa's playstyle as steady and consistent, Scene's was wild and fast. His script for each wave wasn't fully fleshed out, but he pushed through them quickly, and on the final wave, this happens. After healing up, he finishes the last wave one hit away from death. Finally, against Grandmother Silk, he starts the fight 40 seconds ahead.
4 minutes to beat this fight. Just don't die and we get world record.
But opts to play safe to try and guarantee the world record, saving all his silk for heals rather than silk spears. Let's see if he pulls it off. The time to beat was 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 59 seconds. Scene clutched out the world record by 1 second, but I have to apologize, this was a bit deceptive. See, LiveSplit's load remover had been updated that same day in between Marissa's and Scene's run. It was changed so that cutscenes became included in the final time, whereas they weren't before. For Scene's entire run, his timer counted up during cutscenes, whereas Marissa's didn't. It was still important that he beat her time, because it meant his run was unambiguously faster. But in reality, Scene's run was a lot more than a second faster. Moving forward, Needle 2 became even more of a time loss because of its cutscene. Either way, Scene proved that he was a world record contender once again. Now, there's a new player I want to introduce. Delta. Delta's origins were in the Hollow Knight community, where he had earned a respectable 33-minute and 22-second time for any % no major glitches. He's done plenty of other speedruns too: Pantheon 5, Jump King, Shadow Generations, and Neon White. Delta was still minutes away from the world record when he started a run on September 18th, and this run was performed using the old loadless timer, which stopped during cutscenes. But right out of the gates, Delta earned a gold split on Moss Mother, 3 seconds faster than any time achieved in a world record so far. Delta's movement is efficient. He doesn't quite reach the same top speed as Scene, but he's steady and consistent. Delta doesn't go for the Bell Beast phase skip, which puts him a bit behind. Delta's early game was excellent. Against bosses like Morwing and Widow, he makes far more liberal use of Silk Spear, and it clearly saves a lot of time. But he struggles a little in the mist afterward. Unlike most other players, Delta kept parry equipped going into Act 2. In theory, it should lose time, but watch how well he makes use of it. As a result, Delta's pace is insane. He's reached this point in Act 2 only getting hit a few times while dishing out tons of damage with parry. By High Hall's Gauntlet, his timer shows he's nearly 2 minutes ahead, and while some of that is from the cutscene time save, he's still definitely ahead of the world record. In High Hall's Gauntlet, Delta makes great use of parry, but it's simply not as good of an option as Silk Spear, which can hit multiple enemies at once as soon as they spawn. He loses some of his lead, but his play against Lace 2 is similarly immaculate, and he ends the run with the equivalent of a mid 1 hour and 2 minute time, if you account for cutscenes. It's a new world record, and after posting this time and being asked whether he used the old or new timer, here's his response.
That was amazing. Let's go. Nice.
Just a single hour passed before Scene fired back. In fact, over the next 5-day period, Scene and Delta earned an insane 7 world records in a row as it swapped hands back and forth between the two of them. Overall, Scene had an edge in being able to pull off Bellbeast phase skip consistently, and using Silk Spear in the late game gave him a notable advantage in combat. Scene's top speed was faster, but his biggest enemy was his own nerves when he would intentionally play safe and bleed time. Delta was consistent, a monster at the early game, and had much more refined arenas, but wasn't achieving Act 2 times that were quite as fast as Scene's. Let's talk about how they improved their times over this period. First, players began making more extensive use of wall bounce Silk Spears. A trick performed by Silk Spearing close enough to the wall, it causes the animation of the Silk Spear returning to the player to finish much faster. Similarly, turnaround Silk Spears, an animation cancel performed by turning around after a slash to Silk Spear sooner, begins seeing more use against bosses. Finding ways to animation cancel and Silk Spear faster is of utmost importance moving forward because the animation by default is so slow. Delta eventually swapped to Silk Spear on September 21st, but it took some time for him to master. Both players began making use of dive dashing, a movement tech involving jumping, pogoing, and dashing in quick succession at a precise rhythm. It's more difficult to execute than jump dashes, but it's a significant boost in speed. Similarly, they begin using neutral pogos more often. More on that later. On Lace 1, they went for lava dunks more aggressively for the chance of getting that 40 damage burst. After that, they practice heelless 4th chorus skip and begin to hit the skip consistently. They also implement a clever damage tank skip before cling grip, with 2 variations. One involving a dash, cloak, dash, and then heal, and another that involves a dash into immediate heal air stall. The latter is harder to perform, but because the heal finishes before getting hit, it's the only option if you're at 1 or 2 HP. Clawline down dash tech is introduced, which is used extensively in the Lace 2 fight. Clawline deals half needle damage twice, and immediately after, the player can down dash and instantly perform a needle slash, closing the distance to the boss and performing double needle damage in rapid succession. On the whole, the run was rapidly becoming more optimized, with players using new tech and implementing new strategies, finding ways to finish runs faster every single day. It was an amazing display of skill and ingenuity from both players and the rest of the community, and it was amazing to watch the record change hands every day of the week. In total, Scene and Delta brought the record down minutes, but the load list timer had also been updated by a developer named Alex Noth. Alex found there was a part of each load that wasn't hardware dependent, and since the whole point of the load list timer was to remove variance between different PC setups, those parts of each load now counted for the run. Accounting for this, Scene and Delta saved approximately 3 minutes over the course of the week, and by the end, Delta held a new world record of 1 hour and 37 seconds. The race to break the sub-hour barrier officially began. After Delta's run on September 22nd, however, there was a brief lull. September 23rd and 24th passed without any new world records being posted. Scene, Onaku, and Delta were doing attempts, and also Sawayoshi, or Sawa for short. Unlike the others, Sawa wasn't using the mist route. They were using another route called Bell's Route. Bell's Route meant ringing all 5 bells and beating the last judge to enter Act 2. Now, think about it. In the mist route, players already get 3 of 5 bells. All players would need in addition is the Greymoor Bell and the Shellwood Bell. Shellwood's Bell is on the way to the last judge, so that's no problem. But the Greymoor Bell requires a lengthy detour to get. That was until players found Craw Skip. By luring these 2 crows to the perfect spot, players could perform 2 rapid pogos and grab the bell with just a small detour. But the issue was obvious. The crows bounced back and forth unpredictably and attacked at random timings. They spawned at opposite ends of the screen and had to be lured to create a perfect ladder, which you had to use at the perfect time without getting hit. If players could consistently perform this trick, the Bell's route would be faster than the Mist route, but while the trick was doable, it didn't seem consistent. And at this point, because players didn't want to spend hours to get a run past Greymoor, most opted to stick with the Mist. One of the players who timed the Bell's route was Nebula. Although Nebula hadn't started doing runs, everyone knew he would be a world record contender. He was a challenger League of Legends player who turned into a Hollow Knight speedrunner. He has a 31-minute and 19-second any percent NMG time, and a 2-hour 49-minute and 59 seconds 112% all Pantheon bosses world record time, a monumental run. And while other players were doing attempts, Nebula was practicing. He finally started doing runs on September 20th, and after just a few days was already getting world record paces. Frankly, everyone in the community saw what was coming. On September 25th, just like how he beat the 112% all Pantheon bosses 2-hour and 50-minute barrier by a single second, Nebula missed the sub-hour barrier in Silksong Any percent by a single second. Nebula got a world record of 1 hour and 1 second. But he wasn't done there. So let's watch his next run and break down the strategies he uses. Get comfy. First, Nebula performed neutral pogos much faster and more often than other players. Let's explain in more detail how this works and why it's so difficult. Neutral pogos enable players to pogo close to the ground without getting stunned. To perform them, players must release the forward input prior to landing, and then immediately after landing, repress forward and jump. If the player represses forward a frame too early, or if they repress too late, they lose time. It's even more tricky because of the fact that the ground players pogo into isn't flat. It's always changing in height, which means changing timings of when the player has to repress forward and jump. To perform neutral pogos as fast as possible is insanely difficult, but if you can pull it off, there's loads of time save to be had. Against the Bell Beast, Nebula shows off a different opener, 8 slashes and a turnaround after the scream to set up the perfect timing to Silk Spear, because the boss always performs a charge attack at the start of the fight. Most players before now weren't pulling off as many hits as Nebula was, and it allowed him to pull off the phase skip more consistently, making the boss less RNG dependent. Next, Nebula shows off a strategy by Jackman Marcus for the Ant Arena, a full strategy for each wave. Watch. But Notably, after getting Swift Step, Nebula doesn't implement dive dashing, instead opting to chain jump dashes. This seemed to be more of a comfort strategy, even though it lost a bit of time. Against bosses, Nebula uses a new Silk Spear animation cancel called the Landing Silk Spear, and it's even faster than turnaround Silk Spears. By performing a slash the moment before you touch the ground, the player can Silk Spear immediately upon landing. You'll often see it used when bosses are staggered, because players can easily time their jump to end right after a slash when the boss isn't moving. Landing Silk Spears will be a pivotal optimization in boss fights moving forward. In the Flexile Spines quest, Nebula uses a clever pogo on the last hit of the left hoker to bounce up to the ceiling and clear a couple spines he otherwise wouldn't be able to reach. He gets Heelless fourth chorus skip, and against Moorwing, Nebula shows off yet another new technique. Dashing in the air immediately after a slash also animation cancels, allowing him to perform a second slash faster than normal. Like landing Silk Spears, this is an incredibly important tech, but it goes without saying that dashing into bosses requires precise spacing and control, pushing the skill ceiling of the game even higher. Throughout the rest of Act 1 and up to the end game, Nebula continues his excellent pace. But let's take a minute to look at his High Halls Gauntlet. In the past, players mapped out some waves here and there, but would often end up improvising. Nebula, however, has a script for the entire arena, but his execution isn't perfect because he really doesn't want to lose the pace. And then, watch what happens. He continues the run up to Lace 2, and it's clear his last run wasn't a fluke. He heads up to Grandmother Silk. If he survives, he's breaking the sub-hour barrier. Let's see if he can pull it off.
Oh my god. Oh my god. We actually fucking skipped it. Dude! There's no way!
This was just 3 weeks after the game released, and top speedrunners were already incredibly skilled. But this isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning, because this video isn't about how players broke the sub-hour barrier, it's about how they demolished it. And it was around then that the community began eyeing a consistent cross-skip setup. Players such as Screw My Shoe, part of the Creed Vlak SR, Alex XY, and the Carrot God worked on setups, strategies, and guides. They found that the Crow had 2 main patterns, an early attack or a late attack, and players adapted their setup depending on which timing the Crow attacked. If the Crow did an early attack, players would react by performing a full jump and then 2 slashes after they land to set up the timing to dash right, spawning the second Crow and then performing both pogos. If the Crow did a late attack, players would move forward just slightly to a different blade of grass, then dash forward the moment the Crow moves, and then performing the pogos. It's a consistent cross-skip setup, a trick that would change the category. This wasn't the only discovery. A player named Melody found that a skip in the first Blasted Steps room on the way to the Last Judge could be done using a heel stall. Previously, players thought they had to wait for the area's wind to pick up, meaning it was only now consistently viable. Nebula similarly found a trick in the next room to skip going through the detour to the room on the right, saving 10 seconds, but it was a difficult skip. It involves a sprint jump at the perfect spot. Then the player has to let go of jump and immediately repress Drifter's Cloak. If they repress Drifter's Cloak a moment too late, they fall too far to reach the wall. It only took 1 input to be off just a little and the player would miss the skip. These were called Blasted Steps Skip 1 and Skip 2, respectively. With all of these skips, the Bells route became the faster route. Most players began making the switch. In his last 2 runs, Nebula had known the Bells route was faster, but wanted to get the sub-hour time before switching. Most splits in the Bells route were the same. The differences were only a small detour in Greymoor for the Bell, opening a shortcut in Shellwood, then heading to Blasted Steps after Widow, and a different route to Cogwork Dancers. Although the new skips were hard, it didn't take long for players to adapt. In fact, on September 27th, 2 days later, Nebula beat the world record by 20 more seconds, with a time of 58 minutes and 32 seconds. In the run, he doesn't hit all the skips first try. He gets cross skip and Blasted Steps skip 2 on his second tries, which is solid all things considered. And the rest of the run is similar to his previous run. The route appears to save approximately 40 seconds, so it was doable for Nebula to break the next minute barrier. It seemed unlikely anyone would beat him to it. He was on a roll with 3 world records in a row. Scene was taking a break, Blue switched to True Ending, Onaku was still grinding for the sub-hour, and Marissa didn't appear to be doing runs. But Delta still was, and he returned 2 days later on September 29th. Delta now had a personal best of 59 minutes and 28 seconds, but actually hadn't switched routes yet. That's right, Delta was still using the mist route. In the run, it's a fairly standard start. In fact, Delta has learned the Bell Beast phase skip. This was typically his Achilles' heel in the early game, but no more. He hits heelless 4th chorus skip and trounces Moorwing using a barrage of Silk Spears. But what I want to highlight is Delta's Widow fight. It's an amazing fight. Delta is proving that his Act 1 is on another level. Delta loses some time to Wraiths in the Mist, but makes up for it with a solid Phantom and Trobio. He loses time in the Citadel because he doesn't have the left side shortcut that Nebula does using Bell's route, but Delta was able to save 15 seconds in High Hall's Gauntlet. It was still close, but Delta had to save more time. Let's see if he can pull it off. With that, Delta had earned a new world record by 6 seconds, which he earned by finishing Grandmother Silk an insane 17 seconds faster. Delta was back.
Just wins for now. Let's go.
Delta had an amazing time, but when other players mastered the Bells route, it was going to be tough for him to compete. But with the new routing and skips, that would take time to happen, if we were talking about regular players. Nebula took the world record back the very same day, and not by a small margin. An hour after that, he got another world record again, and it was again by a significant margin, saving 37 seconds in his first run and then another 27 seconds after, for a final time of 57 minutes and 22 seconds. Let's break down just how Nebula was able to lower the time this much. Versus Lace 1, Jackman Marcus found another strategy. When Lace falls into lava, she jumps back out and her hitbox is still active, meaning she's vulnerable to Silk Spear. It's now a potential 55 damage per lava dunk, making them even more important. In the run, Nebula made more extensive use of landing Silk Spears, finding more situations to use it against bosses. Take a peek yourself. After his Widow fight, he's 20 seconds ahead. Unlike Widow, the last judge is a fairly straightforward fight. Stick to the boss, and then when forced away, Silk Spear from range. Dash attack into follow-up slash is a useful technique to squeeze out more damage, but most important is avoiding being hit, because you don't get a free heal until after Cogwork Dancers, a boss that optimally requires a damage tank at the start. It's an insane pace up to High Hall's Gauntlet, but then watch what happens. It's a brutal arena for anyone. Nebula loses time but has enough time save on Grandmother Silk for another world record. And because this was performed after the clock struck midnight, it was a run on September 30th, meaning it was the first run after the Silksong leaderboard embargo ended. With the leaderboards finally open, things were about to become even more competitive. And while no one else was even within a minute of Nebula's time, that was about to change. Delta's personal best was a 58-minute time, second place, but not even within a minute of Nebula's world record. But still, if anyone could pull it off and beat Nebula to the world's first 56-minute time, it was him. On October 3rd, Delta started a run. Delta's personal best was still with the Mist route, so he was actually playing against a 59-minute personal best for Bell's route. Interestingly, Delta saves and quits out after the Bellbeast Silkheart cutscene. It's because Hornet takes 8 seconds to stand up after, but if you save and quit, then reload the save, she stands up immediately, saving a bit of time. Delta's movement has also noticeably improved. His neutral pogos are clean, and his dive dashing rhythm is fast. As usual, Delta's early game pace is insane. He hits all the tricks first try. Bellbeast phase skip, Heelless fourth chorus skip, cross skip, Garuma skip, the flower damage tank. He had a double dunk Lace 1 fight and a hitless Moorwing. There were no major mistakes until Blasted Steps skip 2, but he gets it on the second try. After the last judge, the question is if he can keep this pace up in Act 2. Watch his first phase of Cogwork Dancers. Delta starts off with a Scream Skip, and with proper Silk management, he's able to get 3 Silk Spears and then have just enough Silk left over to heal after the first phase. And after that, it's a good thing he healed. Delta has more close calls at Trobio, and another close call on the way out of the Underworks, thankfully making it to the safety bench. But when he reaches Vault Keeper Cardinius, he accidentally exits the dialogue, and the Vault Keeper refuses to reappear. Delta doesn't know what to do, but then runs out of the room and re-enters, and is forced to repeat the dialogue. After, he makes up some time in Upper Cogwork Core with a great split, and looks to be on a low 57 pace, but he's going to need a great High Hall's Gauntlet. He's definitely feeling the pressure, but he's keeping it together and clutching it out. And after an excellent pattern from the clappers, he pulls even further ahead. Delta is on pace to break the minute barrier if his boss fights are excellent. Let's see if he can pull it off.
I hate your bells, but please provide for me. One more. So close. If I hadn't messed up the menu, it would be 56. I'm so mad.
It's a new world record by 18 seconds, but sadly, not the 56. Still, it was an insane run and proved that Nebula still had competition in the category. For the first time in any percent, things calmed down for just a moment. It wasn't until a full week later that Nebula responded, and he came back even better than before. He used slashes to ledge get up even faster. His run throughout the early game is solid, and he hits all the skips. But when he gets to Garama skip, watch what happens. Players found that after the flower is first taunted into range, it could be lured by regular needle slashes against the terrain. It also allows the player to save some silk for the flower damage tank skip after. On Widow, there's more usage of dash animation cancels. Nebula still struggles with Blasted Steps skip 2 because of its difficulty, but he's on an amazing pace. His Act 2 is consistent throughout. Boss fights and arenas are slowly becoming more optimized. A lot of it comes down to improved execution at this point, or implementing previously known tech in more situations. Week by week, players find new opportunities to take down bosses just 1 or 2 seconds faster, and they aren't slowing down. Going into Lace 2, Nebula is nearly a minute ahead. Now, watch the fight. It's textbook, but in Silksong, the player can die and lose the run in an instant, and Nebula came close. His grandmother Silk similarly had a few close calls, but all he had to do is survive to get the world record back. His time to beat is 57 minutes and 4 seconds. It was an insane time, but Nebula immediately starts talking about the 55.
I see the 56 vision, or the 55 vision, but it's definitely gonna be hard.
Like a machine, he starts another run. Nebula has time to save in the early game and on Grandmother Silk. His last run wasn't perfect, but it didn't have any real major time losses. Moving forward, it was more so about ironing out the smallest mistakes and continuing to improve the already insane execution. and that's exactly what he was doing. He was making less small mistakes until later in the run. Nebula had trouble leading up to Cogwork Core with some uncharacteristic mistakes. He saved time in High Hall's Gauntlet, but ultimately made it to Grandmother Silk just 5 seconds ahead. Could he pull off the second world record in a row? Nebula golds the split, saving 20 seconds and earning the second world record of the night, a 56-minute and 16-second time. It turns out the 55 really wasn't as far away as we thought. But after this, there would be another lull in the action, until on October 13th, a player came out of nowhere and posted this. Their name was Stormy, and they had somehow managed to take the world record from Nebula. In the early game, Stormy's strength is their movement, both their neutral pogos and their dive dashes. It's easy to tell at a glance this is a highly skilled player. Stormy doesn't have great Bellbeast RNG and makes mistakes in the Ant Arena, but against Lace 1, Stormy opens with a dash attack Silk Spear. It's made better because the Silk Spear hits the off-screen gate behind Lace and bounces back into Hornet's hands. Stormy is also clearly counting hits towards Lace's stagger to guarantee the lava dunks. After a solid early game, Stormy shows off a new trick against Widow. During her phase change, she's vulnerable for just a moment when leaving and re-entering the arena. Stormy has an excellent Widow fight through to the Whispering Vaults arena. Textbook execution, a gold split for Stormy. Stormy has also implemented the dash animation cancel tech against Trobio's float. Throughout the fight, Stormy always uses Silk Spear animation cancel tech for small time saves which seriously add up. It's bad RNG from the boss, but still a gold split due to their execution. Stormy shows some signs of nervousness, but overall they hold it together, hitting a nice cycle skip in upper Cogwork Core. After High Hall's Gauntlet and Lace, Stormy was 40 seconds ahead going into Grandmother Silk.
Yeah, don't be stupid. That was good. That was really good. Oh my god, I don't want to look at timer. I'm scared to look at timer. It's a PB. It's a PB though. It's a PB. Fuck! No! Oh my goodness. You know what? As sad as that is, I'm happy, dude. It's world record. Oh my god, Nebula, go get that sub 56. I don't know, I might need a break.
It only took 2 days for Nebula to take the record back, with a convincing 55-minute and 32-second time, 45 seconds faster. And for the rest of October, Silksong Any became the Nebula show. 2 days later, he earned a 55-minute, 23-second time, shaving 9 more seconds. Later that night, a 54-minute and 50-second time, 33 more seconds, and breaking another minute barrier. 5 days later, a 54-minute and 36-second time, 14 seconds faster. Then a 54-minute, 30-second time, 6 seconds faster. And finally, to end off a streak of 6 world records throughout October, an insane 54-minute and 11-second time. Now, think about the run we just watched. Nebula has shaved 2 full minutes off of it. How was he able to pull it off? It's purely due to strategy and execution. Let's take a look. Players, including Nebula, are using a new Bell Beast opener. In short, players would previously deal more front-loaded damage on the first attack, then perform just a few nail slashes to bring the boss down to exactly 80 HP. But the community found that the Bell Beast could only perform the Bell attack when it was below 120 HP. So by doing those few nail slashes first, and then using the Silk Spears on the second attack, players would eliminate an opportunity for the Bell Beast to waste time using the Bell attack. It's a clever opener that once again makes the boss less RNG dependent. And after Nebula gets Swift Step, watch what happens. It's a dive dash. Remember, Nebula has been staying ahead of the competition without dive dashes. Now that he's finally implemented them, he's going to be able to cash in on all the time save he never took advantage of before. In the Flexile Spines quest, Nebula implements a clever Silk Spear strategy found by Onaku to gather spines that would normally end up unreachable. But even more important is Cross Skip 2. It's a new trick used to skip the Greymoor Arena. Watch. It was originally found by VogTech, then improved by Fallen Turtle, then improved again by Onaku, who found a safer version using a heel air stall. But sometimes the left crow just doesn't spawn. It's the worst kind of RNG. Now, I want you to witness a strategy called Left Side Moorwing. It's an AI manipulation strategy. It's random whether the boss does the charge attack at the start, but if it does, you can lure it left and consistently 100 to 0 the boss against the left wall. And when it finally gets the opportunity to attack, you run to its left in case it charges, so it remains against the wall. Bosses such as Widow, Trobio, and Lace 2 have all been heavily optimized as well. Nebula repositions around Widow, dodging the bells using pogo dash iframes while continuing to deal damage. Against Trobio, he constantly finds Silk Spear animation cancels, dealing loads of damage whenever the boss is against a wall. Against Lace 2 and Grandmother Silk, just watch. By Nebula's standards, it's an average early game and an excellent Act 2. Once again, he closes out the run by speaking of his vision of breaking the next minute barrier, the 53-minute time.
Yeah, 53 is in sight. I see the vision. I see the vision for 52? No, not yet.
But then, there was understandably a lull until early November. Nebula didn't improve his time, but it didn't seem like anyone else was all that close either. Stormy had improved their 56.04 to a 55 flat, but they were still the closest runner, and that 49-second gap was enormous. But what happened next was something no one expected. A player from the Chinese Hollow Knight community appeared, Remto. Players who closely follow Hollow Knight challenge runs already know Remto, a player who achieved the world's first Pantheon 5 all bindings hitless run. It's extremely rare for a speedrunner to succeed at high-level challenge runs, and vice versa. To be able to achieve insane world firsts as a challenge runner and then top times as a speedrunner is unheard of. until Remto posted this, and then later, this. Just how did Remto pull off the world's first 52-minute run? It beat Nebula's time by 1 minute and 18 seconds. Remto's skill at the game is insane, but his time save wasn't just execution. Remto was running on release patch. If you'll recall from my previous video, there were originally 2 routes, Cloak and Cloakless. Cloakless became impossible because in the game's first patch, the single piece of geometry which enabled players to perform Cloakless was removed from the game. Top speedrunners continued playing on latest patch. The rest of the community simply followed suit. Still, being so early in the speedrun's lifespan, players were undecided on whether to return to Cloakless and opted to stick with the latest patch until now, until Remto changed the category. Debates erupted on how the leaderboards should be split, if at all. Ultimately, the community decided to split the leaderboards into release patch and later patches. This was the Cloakless key route, the faster version. You would farm Geo in the early game, primarily after Swift Step, and instead of heading to Lace 1, you'd return to Bone Bottom, grabbing the most efficient Geo sources along the way to purchase the simple key. They would then rush through Wormways into Shellwood, and from there it's more or less the usual route. Only one difference: we've skipped the bells, meaning our route into Act 2 is by default the Mist. This invigorated an already incredibly active community as players began labbing the Mist even more. But before we get to that, let's watch Remto's run in action. On the way to Bellbeast, there's only a couple small detours to get rosaries. One in Moss Grotto, one beside Beastfly Pogo, one beside Silk Spear, and then a few rosaries underneath. The route isn't too different early on because most of the Geo collection happens after Swift Step. After Bellbeast, players unlock a new shortcut before the usual drop into the room near Deep Docks. After Swift Step, Remto heads down and left, killing enemies and grabbing rosaries along the way. There's 2 rosary nodes in a hidden area, a node at the shortcut unlocked earlier, a chest hidden behind a wall, 2 rosary nodes to the left, and then the pilgrims under Silk Spear are farmed a second time. Finally, the node beside Wormways is grabbed before dropping down, unlocking the elevator and purchasing the simple key. Now Remto enters Wormways. If you played Silksong, you'd know Wormways is not the easiest area to navigate, but Remto has already figured it out. Worms can be dealt with by pogo dashing through them at the perfect time, by racing past them before they spawn, or by squeezing beside them in the small corridors. Remto frankly makes Wormways look easy, but the reality is that it only takes a few hits to lose the run. After entering Shellwood, the route is extremely similar to the previous Mist route. Of course, players can't do the flower skip in Shellwood without Cloak, and Chalamet skip is a little different. Remto uses a Silk Spear to air stall, giving the enemy time to fly further up. It's harder than before, but still doable. Throughout the rest of the run, it almost looks as if Remto handed Nebula the controller. There's some differences in their playstyle for sure, but it's clear Remto has studied Nebula's runs extensively, and that's not to diminish Remto's accomplishment. Remto was equaling Nebula, and at times his speed is just insane to watch. Similar to Scene, Remto had a crazy top speed, but like Delta, Nebula had the consistency. Either way, with these world records, Remto turned the run on its head by leading the community back to release patch any %. According to Nebula, the current key route saves approximately 1 minute and 45 seconds over bells. If you compare Remto's 52-minute and 53-second run to Nebula's previous 54-minute and 11-second run, it shows that their runs are actually quite close, accounting for the route's time save. But as before, Nebula came back with a vengeance. 4 days later, Nebula gets a 52-minute and 41-second world record time, beating Remto's world record by 12 seconds. 3 days later, a 52-minute and 26-second world record time. The next day, a 52-minute and 20-second world record time. And finally, on November 16th, Nebula broke the minute barrier. He earned an unbelievable time of 51 minutes and 38 seconds, beating his previous best by a staggering 42 seconds. And a few days later, on November 20th, he earned a time of 51 minutes and 24 seconds, another 14-second improvement. Finally, on November 22nd, Nebula started another run, and I'm going to let this one speak for itself. Nebula earned a 51-minute and 12-second time. Nebula, all the other world record runners, Remto, Stormy, Delta, Scene, Marissa, Blue SR, Onaku, and Ramelia, and the rest of the speedrunning community made this possible. 33 world records in just 2 months. But what's most surprising of all is that there's still plenty of time to be saved. It won't be easy, but knowing these players is going to happen sooner than you'd think. While they're much closer than before, the skill ceiling still hasn't been reached. Next is the 51-minute barrier, and don't be surprised if by the time you're watching this, it and more have already been broken by these amazing players. Once again, shoutouts to all these players for their inspirational dedication to the run, and also for letting me use their footage. Most of them stream the game, so I'll link to their channels in the description. Please go check them out. They're all insanely good players. Thanks so much everyone for watching, and I hope you all enjoy Silksong speedruns as much as I do. Any percent is such an amazing category, and it's so much fun to watch the time get pushed down more and more. And you don't have to be a god gamer to set your own goals and enjoy the run yourself. So if speedrunning Silksong seems interesting to you, join the Discord, watch some guides, and begin your own speedrunning journey. The best thing about speedrunning is that it teaches us we're capable of so much more than we realize. I'll be continuing runs myself, so if you want to hang out, join my Discord for stream pings or follow my Twitch. I'd love to have you there. Take care everyone, and have a wonderful day.